Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. We're here in this beautiful day in September. Excited about today. Corey, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man, because weather's starting to get nicer, man.
Still humid.
It is humid.
Which I walked out this morning and thought that, it's an overcast, fall day, and then bam,
well, that's
Virginia
all
Beach
that,
right in
all
your
that
face.
rain and I guess all that hurricane stuff. I mean, I guess it's still that, which is.
know.
But I'm seeing 70s on my app, so
Yeah,
I'm ready for it.
yeah, man. You know how it is down here. You don't get a sweatshirt until November.
That's true.
You put a sweatshirt on because you prematurely do it in Virginia Beach, and by 11 o'clock you're sweating, and you're like, why am I wearing a sweatshirt?
I almost did today. I mean, I
Me
wore
too.
long sleeves. But
Me too.
I almost put a sweatshirt.
And then I walked outside.
I just want to wear a hoodie, man. That's
Yeah.
all I want to do.
It doesn't happen down here, but November feels like September in most places.
But the beauty of living here is, once you get into, I would say even October, you got that hoodie on, but jean shorts. Hoodies and jean shorts, man.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, man, that hoodie looks good until about 11:30 most
If that
days.
was a style, it's mine.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that style.
I'm here for it.
But look, we can't start a show at this juncture without talking about old Aaron Rodgers.
I know,
mean,
dude.
who would have thought, right?
Holy cow.
I mean, the biggest story of the offseason, and Aaron Rodgers goes down. You know, I don't like to say I'm not a fan, but I'm not a Packers fan. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is a great quarterback, but I'm not, I'm an NFL fan, so I follow everybody, but I love having him in the league because it makes things interesting for sure.
Yeah.
When you have a player like that go down, it changes. I mean, a whole team is now thinking about how are we going to win this.
Really? My favorite part out of all of this has been
They were picked to possibly win I mean, to be at least a wild card. Now they're saying, well, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, I know they had that great end of the first game and they had that punt return for a touchdown, but
yeah. My favorite part of the whole thing, though, is all the Tom Brady memes that have come out.
It's funny you should mention that because I had a meme saved in my podcast folder for months. Actually, 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, at the right time, this will come out. And it was when they were talking in March about him coming out of retirement because he had just retired after the season.
Yeah.
So this past March, they're talking about him coming out of retirement. And his response was, anyone who thinks I have time to come back to the NFL has never adopted a 2-month-old kitten for their daughter.
That's funny.
That was right after he retired in March. So, I will say this. The West Coast offense that the Jets run is not Tom Brady's style of offense.
Gotcha.
So it's very different than what he's used to running. Do I think he's coming back? I just don't think you can ever say never.
Who knows?
If put it this way, if the Jets roster is where Tom Brady thinks it could be, and I know he's trying to get minority ownership in the Raiders. I don't know if that went through. I know he was trying to get minority ownership there. I don't think you can't be a player and a minority owner of another team. I'm pretty sure there's a conflict of interest there.
Yeah.
But
is their second string quarterback? Is his name Walsh?
Wilson.
Wilson, that's right. See, my favorite ones are like there's some video clip of Tom Brady in like a boardroom meeting, and literally the top is like when Matt Walsh or Wilson when Wilson walks into the room and Tom Brady's like he's just smiling.
Dude, I think I don't know. I don't know. You can never say never. I mean, you give him a year where he didn't have to go to training camp, a year where he inherits a team that has a lot of talent on it. And he's in New York, which is a huge marketing place. I mean, crazier things have happened. What if he wins the Super Bowl? I mean, say, well, he was a Patriot, was he? Yeah. I mean, he won one with the Bucks. Why not with the Jets? I don't know. I will not count him out.
I wouldn't either.
This is what I would say.
Yeah.
If the Jets are to sneak in the playoffs, I think they could sign him. I mean, the 49ers were talking about last year bringing Phillip Rivers back if they made the Super Bowl. Can you imagine coming back as a quarterback in the Super Bowl?
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. You chill all year, watch TV from your couch, coach some high school kids, and then go play the Super Bowl. It's just a crazy world. It's a crazy world in the NFL. And it was a crazy first week in the NFL. I mean, Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions going for it on, fourth down from his own 17-yard line. Detroit won that in Arrowhead against the Chiefs. Everybody says, well, if Kelsey was playing, it would have been different. I think it absolutely would have been different. Do I think they would have won? Not necessarily, but it does change how you play. It changes everything about a game when you have a dynamic player like Kelsey in.
Yeah.
But, if he didn't play, and they lost. So everything. Well, if he did, he's the X factor. That's not always true. Is he better? Yes, but it does changes the game. It changes who Mahomes is looking at on a third down play. It changes drops, but it could also change. Maybe he forces one. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something that was funny before that game started. Chris Collinsworth made the comment because Kelsey wasn't playing. Tonight, America's about ready to realize or to find out how good Patrick Mahomes really is. And everybody was writing, we already know how good he is. He's won multiple Super Bowls. Tonight is not going to show us something about Patrick Mahomes we didn't already know. But, I was listening to some of these critical comments from people, these commentators. And, dude, it would be hard to be a commentator today because there's just too much internet. I understood what Chris Collins, the point he was trying to make, and so did everybody else. Or maybe they didn't, and that's why they wrote those things. But I was just thinking, man, they just tear you apart. It would be impossible to be a commentator today without just a barrage of people are looking to be critical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one thing I think is underrated is the NFL opening night on Thursday. All the commercials for the NFL for the year start on that night. And so it's like the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Every commercial is a new commercial for the NFL.
Gotcha.
They had different players in them, actors, actions. Some are really funny. Like they had the table reading, the script reading for the NFL, and they had like all these NFL players doing the readings. It was hilarious.
I've seen that,
yeah. Hey man, why you got to cut me out? It's just they're funny.
Well, that's like
DK Metcalf was there, and I think Justin Jefferson was in it. It's just cool to and Kirk Cousins sitting there with no shirt on, all of his gold chains.
Yeah,
just funny. That the script reading, just stuff like that. I think it's great. The NFL opening night, man. There's some cool there's some cool commercials that I was like, man, this opening night is kind of like a mini Super Bowl in that you get the first game, but you get all these new commercials.
Yeah. What's funny about the scripted commercials, because they're playing off, that's real theories that people have.
That's why
the NFL is scripted.
Yeah.
Here's a weird thing, though. There was I read somewhere that somebody tweeted, or X or whatever it was, somebody who's somehow in the NFL sphere or whatever, and he tweeted 2.5 hours before Aaron Rodgers, tore his Achilles, that he was going to tear his Achilles. It was like, okay, that's a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, I hear it.
That's just a guess.
Yeah, I hear it. But having played football through college, I can tell you this, and I didn't play a lot in college. I didn't start till my sophomore year. Actually, it was my junior year. My senior year, I was supposed to have a fifth year. I ended up not doing it. So, kind of my whole college career was a little bit skewed in that I started late and left early. So, I really only had 2 years of playing. So, I really didn't get on the field. You kind of got to earn your keep. I wasn't like one of these guys coming in that was just like torching the defense,
Yeah.
I think all those theories are crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think, the WWE, okay, we get it. You can't script football. I don't care who it's so funny to me that people have gone, just like they say birds are government AI. You know what I'm saying? Give me a break. Football, I can tell you this.
Yeah.
I've been to the games. They're not, there's no way. I mean, NFL, these guys, you're telling me every player in the history of the NFL, and nobody's ever said that.
Yeah.
It's
for sure.
Bogus.
That and the video of his Achilles popping.
Oh.
I mean, it's gross. Yeah, you can see it roll up.
Dude, it is gross. Actually, yeah. I was like, dude, that's foul, man. That is foul. Well, hey, you asked for it.
Nailed it. I nailed it.
You were sitting there.
I get nervous about this now.
Don't blame me. You asked for it.
All right, so right before we came on, we were talking about walk-up songs because they made fun of me because I walked in the office and had this sliding glass door and it about shattered, and it just made this grand entrance. Because I walk in here and I throw the door open and they're all sitting here quietly like good studious little students working on their whatever they're doing. I don't know what they do. Whatever they're doing.
I mean, I was getting set up for the podcast.
Yeah. And I come walking in, they're like, wow, good entrance. I was like, bro, y'all can have no entrance, no music. The fans can be sitting there quiet. But when I come in the room, I got an entrance.
It was literally like, what up, boys?
Hey, it's how we get down, man. It's how we get down. The champ is here. No, it's how we get down. So I said, listen, what would your walk-up song be? There was recently this post by, I think the Mets. I think the Mets were playing the Twins, and the Mets broadcasted the intro for one of the closing pitcher for the Twins.
Yeah,
and it's Joan Duran. And he has this intro that's unbelievable. It's like the Undertaker music starts, and it goes into this song, and all the stadium lights go out, and the flames come up on all the LEDs. I mean, it's amazing. When I was in Atlanta last year, Kenley Jansen came in to welcome to Atlanta. The place went dark and all the because I mean, Atlanta's the first one with like the LEDs and the majors, and so all the lights go out, and they always do the chop and all that kind of stuff. And it's beautiful, and all the phones go off and they're chopping whatever. But what would your walk-up song be, man? If you get to go into a professional game. You get one song.
Easy. Whitewashed by August Burns Red.
Okay.
No one knows what that is.
I know the group. I'm guessing it's heavy metal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't really call it heavy metal, but yeah.
I don't know if we can play
it's
it, or
definitely-
they might kick us off of YouTube.
We have all the rights. No,
I don't
I'm not
know what
playing
my
it.
song would be. I think I'd be one of those guys that I switch it up all the time.
Yeah.
Because there's the cool songs are the ones where there's crowd involvement. Where like there's something that happens and the crowd responds, and then you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I think it would have to depend on the moment. It would have to depend on, because some Major League Baseball players have 3 different walk-up songs, or 4. They just play them different innings.
Yeah.
I don't know what mine would be. I mean, I think I changed so much. I would definitely change year to year, or
It wouldn't be
season to
Don't
season.
Call It a Comeback.
If I got injured,
comeback.
if I got injured,
If I got injured.
my whole year
Well,
after
you're not
that,
calling it a comeback.
yeah, my whole year after that, if I got injured, would be Don't Call It a Comeback. Yeah, I think mine would be. It's hard to go wrong with, Lose Yourself.
I mean, there you go.
Just
Is this like a highly debated thing with your boys in baseball too? Because here's what I've noticed is my boys care about it, but somehow it's always the song my wife chooses for them. I'm like, they didn't grow up in this era of music. They don't even half know what this song is, and you're just choosing it for them because I think it's more meaningful to her than it is my own kids.
No, I mean, my kids that I coach, they know what songs they want.
That's what I'm saying.
And it throws you for a little bit of a curve,
sure.
because some of these kids, you think they're going to be playing like Morgan Wallen, and they come up to like Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
And you're like, dang, man, I like that. And other
Yeah.
kids, you're like, dude, this kid's going to have like, some kind of heavy metal, and it ends up being like some dude on an acoustic. So it actually, something I tell my wife all the time, because, last year I coached a 10 and 12U. This year I'm coaching a 13U. Every year you do it, you learn a lot about the kids, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually something I love doing, because one of my favorite things is like waiting for the walk-up songs to come in. And we do them multiple times a year. We'll switch them up for them. And whenever I get this walk-up song, it's like, dude, this is so sweet. Like some of these kids, they went from like cool to super swag with their walk-up song, because it's like somebody you would never expect to have a particular song, and it just fits them.
Yeah.
You're like, man, this is awesome. You're like, okay, and you see personality in it. So I don't know. Maybe it's when they get younger too. I know Rylan, my 10-year-old, or 11, he's about to be 11. Dude, he's all up in it. Like he's big on music. So he's got like 3 or 4 songs he likes. He's funny, man. But he's like, Dad, what do you think about this? He's like, now batting for the pups. Riley and Shank. And it's like, do. So
I love it.
they love it. But it's cool, man. I like to give the atmosphere. When you get on the bigger fields like we're at, you got to purchase bigger speakers, because you got to make the bass hit. If the bass don't hit, you ain't doing it right.
Dude,
I don't want it to just be like we can hear it. I want it to be like the other team can feel it. You know what I'm saying? You invest in those speakers.
I wish that other fields and teams would invest in some nice.
A lot of the 13, 14 years they stopped doing it as much, and I was like, not this guy.
Well, and we were at tournaments last spring season, and I literally watched the person do this with their phone up to the microphone, and I was like, oh goodness. I literally texted a picture to Brian, our sound guy at church, and he was like, oh, that makes me makes me twitch. I was like, me too, dude. I can't do it.
No, there's an app you can download, and it has a bunch of professional like announcers on it.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's the app we use. But it's
Oh yeah.
anyway, it is what it is. But it's a good walk-up song, man. I mean, the fact you were that quick with it,
Oh yeah, I wish there was walk-up songs when I was playing.
Dude, me too.
Because I mean, granted, that album's later, but
yeah, no, I understand that.
go listen to it. Just the first like 30 seconds of that song, it goes hard.
Yeah,
real hard.
I mean, there's some good stuff here. I mean, yeah, there's some good stuff here, man.
But what a great question. We'll post a clip. What's everybody's walk-up song?
Yeah,
I mean, I want to know if you had a walk-up song in life.
That's
whether
what I'm saying.
you play
When you walk
sports
in
or
the room.
not. Yeah, you walk into a room. What is the song?
Some of y'all just want a good old Return of the Mac.
Yeah, and I think
Return of the Mac.
Post a story. We'll do something. We'll figure out something. I'll make some kind of like story image. You can tag us, and you can put your song in the story.
I like it.
Yeah, so we can hear everybody's.
I like it a lot.
Life song.
I want John Duran's song. That's what I want.
Okay.
I want his intro.
Yeah.
But hey, so the one thing, this is a interesting. I was reading this article the other day, and I think a lot of us, if we're being honest, we want what's best for our kids. But I think parents, this generation especially, I feel like is more overbearing than the generations before us. There's more helicopter parents right now than before. I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think that we feel like we have to protect our kids more, not because sexual abuse is happening more. I think it's just more widely known. I feel like there is such a striving with parents that our kid has to be the best athlete. Our kid has to be the best scholar. There's so much pressure on our kids to perform because they see pictures of kids performing. They see, we don't celebrate a kid finishing fourth. We celebrate the kid who finishes first or second. There's just so much pressure. And I think we always say social media like it's a bad thing, but I think it's just social media is a way for us to compare.
Yeah.
So the problem isn't social media, it's that we compare. And so the one thing that kids say, child therapists say that harm kids' happiness the most, and they say today kids are struggling more than ever. Like the suicide rates in high schools are up. The percentage of kids that have actually tried to commit suicide are up. And it says there was a time during COVID where we reduced our support to Zoom squares on a screen. So the kids were just connected to screens all day. Then they were reduced to this screen all day, this square on a Zoom call all day. And there was a 2-year period where these kids just had nothing other than electronics. But it says the ubiquity of social media permeating every aspect of kids' lives, that the data actually indicates a correlation between social media use and mental health concerns, especially for teen girls. And it said there's this grind culture, and it just pressures our kids to achieve and succeed at every undertaking. But it says, though, number one thing that child psychologists said was a threat to kids' happiness. Do you want to guess?
Hit me with it.
Their parents' pursuit of their kids' happiness.
Yep.
It said it can be counterproductive to their children's well-being in the long term. I mean, we all want our kids to be happy, but it says kids aren't going to be happy all the time. And in focusing on their achievements and success, that we actually run the risk of them not knowing that we love them and value them unconditionally.
Yeah.
I've seen this. I coach travel baseball. The last 2 years, I coached football, back-to-back city champs. What's up? Yeah, Maddox was a part of the first. Yeah. He was the first part of the initial team.
Still talks about it.
Hey, he should. He's a champion. Nobody can take that from you.
Nope.
There's a medal around your neck for a reason. But I coaching youth sports and coaching youth sports at high levels, I can tell you that this is absolutely something that I see, and not as much with some of my teams. We recruit families more than we recruit players on the teams that I coach, especially my travel teams. We recruit families. Like we check out the parents, we check out the families before we give offers to kids.
Yeah.
I want to know that we're bringing on a good family, good chemistry, that this is going to be I don't like toxicity. So we don't play with that. But the problem is that parents are now the CEOs running their kids when they get in the pros. It's like that in travel. The generation in front of our kids has needs that were never met, and that's why I think that's the way.
Yeah.
But these parents, it's almost like kids are their property. I have seen it. There's two things that startle me. One, the parent who won't even let the kid hardly talk because the parent's always talking over them to everybody for everybody. Like it's almost like they're a puppet.
Yeah.
They're the puppeteer and the kid's the puppet. The second is that when kids aren't as good and they have thousands of dollars in equipment, I'm thinking, what are you doing? It's like you bought a Bentley and you've got metal tires on it.
Yeah.
Like, do you realize it doesn't work like that?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much engine you got. Those tires have got to be able to run. And these kids, they're not like, they don't have to earn it. A lot of these kids are getting thousands of dollars in equipment, the elbow guards, the gloves, batting gloves, the cleats, just everything, you name it, all the drip, and they're not good.
Yeah.
Or they're not as good as other kids. But what it does, I don't think parents realize, is that all the stuff we get our kids creates an expectation. Like, we've given you all the tools, now you need to perform. And it's not that the parents are doing it maliciously. I mean, we're all guilty. But it's everything we're doing, we don't realize that it's showing our kids, you don't have to earn this. Like, go out and perform. When the kids don't perform, we're all over them. It's like, well, why is it so important to us as a parent that our kid performs well? If our kid is having fun playing the game, what's the purpose of us? Why is that? Well, because travel sports have taken over, and and I will say they are ruining in a lot of ways sports. And that's coming from a travel coach.
Yeah.
Because we have enough talent. Now, this isn't the case everywhere, but in Virginia Beach, we could shut down every travel program we have. And we have enough talent in our city to release highly competitive pro athletes all the time.
Yeah.
Virginia Beach is a baseball mecca.
Yeah.
Right? We can release soccer, baseball, football. We don't need the rest of the world to create highly talented athletes. I mean, the Tidewater is one of the greatest recruiting grounds in all of America. Every college coach knows that. Basketball, baseball, football, soccer. This is a hotbed for recruits.
Yeah.
Period. But there is this thing where we have to play the best and be the best and spend all this money, and it's not, in my opinion, we've played people from all over our state. We've been to state tournaments twice, last 2 years for our little league team. We've seen the best, and it's not better than what's down here. It's not better than what's in the Tidewater. My point is, we are as a people, we are striving, and we're doing it through our children. Now, I don't think that travel programs are us striving through our children. I do think there's a large piece of that. Travel programs used to be for elite talent. Only certain kids could do it. Some cities or some areas will restrict, say, no, these are our travel teams. You can't just start travel teams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have an organization that does them. That's not like that here. I mean, there's like probably 25, 30, 10U teams just in Virginia Beach.
There's a lot, yeah.
You don't have to, you can start, well, we're the Virginia Beach baseballers. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, they might suck, but it doesn't matter. They're a travel team. Like, everybody plays travel now. It's the new Little League.
Yeah.
My point is this. I feel like this generation in front of our kids is the problem because we're striving. I heard people say the other day, like, there's this concept of, you know, our kids can be spoiled and our kids can be entitled and our kids can do this, but that's the parents' fault. It's not our kids' fault that they're entitled or spoiled. They didn't do that to themselves. We did that to them.
Yeah.
We're the ones who created that monster.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why our kids, well, the kids these days, well, it's your fault. If you're a grandparent and you say that about the kids, well, your kids were your fault. So their kids are your kids' fault, which means you're still connected.
Yeah.
It disgusts me when people say, well, these kids these days, let's talk about your generation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the generation of baby boomers right now who can't afford to retire, who financially are a mess. Let's talk about the generation in front of them that intimately had no intimacy with their kids, very little, that the parents is very stoic. Everybody get in the car, make sure your tie is on, your pants look good, even though that we're a mess of a family. We're going to look good going to church. Like, let's talk about generations then if we're going to talk about generations.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The kids these days, yeah, they've had media in front of their face, but they're a good generation. They're a hungry generation. They're a passionate generation. They're in love with finding experiences. This generation, I believe, has as much potential as any to lead us to the cross, to the place of God that we all need to be, because they want experience and they're not willing to stop. And the thing I love about this generation, they will not let people affect them that haven't proven that they're effective.
Yeah. That's
and
good.
so I think the parents, and so it goes on to say that that we have to normalize a whole range of emotions, not just happiness. And I think that's the problem, is that we, even in front of our kids, we try to say, no, you don't need to be angry. You can't be angry. Don't get mad. Why can't they get mad? Don't you think the most effective thing for a kid isn't that they don't not get mad, but they know that anger is an emotion you're allowed to express?
Yes.
But the Bible talks about self-control, because anger is allowed, but you control it.
In your anger, do not sin. Yep.
So you can be angry and not sin, is what you're telling me?
Yep.
You see my point?
Oh,
But our thing is, just be joyful. If you read the Bible, it says the joy of the Lord is my strength. It never says God's goal for us is joy.
Yes. Yeah.
But we find our joy in Him.
Bro, you're hitting everything that I've just recently unpacked in my life, because I had to.
Because I have a walk-up song. That's why I throw the door open when I come in.
I had to come to this conclusion that, again, you want to talk about generational curses, whatever, and those kind of things. Yeah, it's the thing is, now as an adult, I am breaking certain things that the environment in which I grew up in set for me. And, I can play the blame game all I want. We've talked about this. You can play the victim all you want, but at some point you're like, okay, I don't want to be the victim here. I don't want to view myself as a victim, but I'm going to move forward. And so my journey was unpacking, literally, with my counselor. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to be angry. You have every right to be angry. But in your anger, do not sin. So how do we let you be angry at all of these things from your childhood and all these things from situations that have happened in your life that I've just emotionally stuffed? Because as a child, I took on almost the personification of anger, jealousy, all these kind of things. They are emotions that you just can't feel. Like, that's the conclusion that I came to in some of the environments that I grew up in. And then as an adult, I carried those things into my life, never really recognized about them until a situation causes me to recognize all these things. And then I'm flooded with anger.
You don't know what to do with it.
I don't know what to do with
so
the anger.
What do? You stuff it.
Exactly. And so I went through 6 months of I was angry. I was angry at everything. And with the help of a counselor, just saying, like, in your anger, do not sin. So what does that look like? And you just get it all out. You're just like, blah, and it all comes out. So dude, you're speaking right to the choir right now. I 110% agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah, we have to figure this out.
Yeah.
We have to. Moms, dads, I just turned 41. I know I look 30, but I turned 41, and I have to figure this out. I don't want my kids to have to go to counselors because of me. I think that's a funny thing. Parents are like, well, I've already told them I'll pay for their counseling. That's not funny to people like me who's been there.
Exactly.
Like, I've been through years of counseling.
Yeah.
I've been through suicidal depression, and I've had people tell me, stop telling your story.
Yeah.
I've had people tell me that.
Yeah.
They've told me your story is getting old.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't people that obviously, not you're getting old. They just said, you've gone through it, so now you just need to like live on the other side of it. And I'm thinking, well, the Bible says the power of your testimony is something that brings people to Christ.
Yeah.
And so for me, if I meet somebody, the most impact I have when I travel and preach is when I tell my story. I can preach, when I preach the word of God, and then I talk about how it's changed my life or the things I've walked through. There's always, the last church I was at, there was a line for an hour and a half that I got to talk to because of my story, because of suicidal depression, because of the things that I've walked through, because they said, I just want to let you know that you gave me hope. And you know what they were saying? If God can do it in your life, I'm believing it for mine.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? And that's what it's about, dude.
It's also a message
that's what it's about.
For a long time, pastors haven't talked about.
Well,
we just don't talk about it.
People didn't go to therapy in front of us because they said, well, God would heal it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, next time you have a heart attack, tell them don't saw your chest open and get your heart to beat. Yeah. Tell them God will heal it and lay there in the bed. And when you die, that's ridiculous. That's like those people who are the religious people who think it's demonic, that think that they can, that the Bible in Acts, when it was talking about, snakes, it was actually a prophetic word about Paul whenever he went to the island and the snake bit him and it didn't hurt him.
Yeah.
And it was a venomous snake. And then they thought, well, this guy must be, they realized then because the snake bit him, it didn't make him sick, that he is from God. They came to know Christ because of that snake.
Yeah.
And you have people today who don't know how to read scripture and interpret it. And so they're handling snakes that are venomous because they want to show everybody that they're spiritual. And then they get bit by that snake and they refuse treatment and they die.
Yeah.
That's the same spirit.
Yep.
It's the same spirit, because I faced that when I came into pastoring in 2014. We started this church. I faced the same spirit of legalism of you don't need counselors. People, I had that said to me, man.
Yeah.
I had that said to me. Stop crying and go pay your counselor. That was an exact word that was said to me by somebody. And people don't understand that there is a generation of people that claim to be Christians in front of us that are not doing the things God's called them to do with their life. And they still look down on us for going to counseling. That's not our problem.
Yeah.
We can't do that to the kids behind us.
Yeah.
We got to welcome it as much as you go to the doctor for a checkup. Welcome them going to a doctor to get their mental health checked up. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I don't know. I just think it's one of those things that kids are alone, and as parents, we kind of can play oblivious. Be like, I just don't get into their stuff. Well, one, you need to. You're a parent. But there's a difference between being nosy and being involved. My kids, I'll grab my kids' phones anytime, just start going through them. And I know everything that's on there. I can do it anytime. And I would love to say there's never been a time where I've had to not have a conversation.
Yeah.
It's not the truth.
Yeah.
I got a 7th grader, and dude, he was exposed to porn, I think, when he was in kindergarten. Not from us. From kids that had iPads.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's conversations started early. So they're a very sexualized generation. They're a very exposed generation. And I can tell you, mom and dads, as much you try to keep from your kids, we can protect our kids, but there's actually a way that we hover over our kids. It's not protecting them, it's hurting them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to learn it somewhere. And I'm not saying you expose them to it. I'm just saying there's a difference between protecting somebody and putting them in quarantine.
Yeah.
And, I'm not malicious, but there is this generation of children. They need to know they're valued. And I tell my players all the time, because there's a couple of kids on my team who I think the majority of our team, maybe all of them, but I think our team, my 13U, I do think there's a good group of that kid. They're going to probably play somewhere in college. They probably can get. I think that they have a chance to play. Maybe all of them have a chance to play at some level in college, right?
Yeah.
And I tell them, I say, you guys are, and I tell them all the time. I'll look at them, I say, and some maybe need it more than others. They need to hear it more than others because they are really talented. And I say, you're more than baseball.
Yeah.
Like, you are so much more than this game. This is something you're good at, but you're more than this. Because it's important that they know that this is a part of something you love. Like Caden, he plays, he's in the marching band at his middle school. And for those of you who aren't from Virginia Beach, marching band down here, like middle schools have them. They're big. So they march with Kellum High School, which is a school he's going to. He'll end up going to. So they march on Friday night football games with the high school band. They do the Star Spangled Banner. They play in the stands with them, and then they watch the halftime show. But they stay in the stands with the band the whole time. and then they are the premier band at the middle school football games. So at the middle school football games, you know, their band marches, and so Caden, the whole school, you know, he got a snare, and so he was in the drum line, but he's on snare now. He's one of 3 snares, and I was like, dude, that's impressive, bro. And there's only 3 quads, so I was like, and there's like 6 or 7 bass drums, but like it's not just his grade, it's the whole school.
Yeah.
And so he got put on one, and he was so pumped. And he's gonna have to miss some baseball practices. He's actually missing 1 game on a Friday night because of it, and he didn't want to miss baseball. And I just told him, I said, Caden, listen, I said, you got to have more in your life than just this game.
Yeah.
I said, because if you don't, you're going to get to the end of it and you're going to look back. I said, it was different. When I grew up, I played football and baseball in high school. I ended up playing football in college. I had opportunities to play baseball. I didn't want to. I was stupid. Looking back, I should have done both at the school I was going to. I wish I would have.
Yeah.
And I don't regret it in high school, but I do regret it in college because I could have been a dual sport athlete.
Gotcha.
And I told Caden, I said, don't regret this, man. I said, you love it. You love marching. You love the snare. Yeah. I said, don't go do that. I said, it's okay. It's the fall. Miss some baseball to go do that because I want him to love the game. In order to do that, he's got to see you're more than just this game.
Yeah.
You're not. And I told him, dude, you're so much more to you than just baseball. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for baseball year round if they want to play. That's fine. But I was like, I want you to do this because it's important. He needs to see that there's more to his life than just one game.
Yeah.
You know? And I know sports are different now. Kids kind of lock in early and play one. I just don't. I like kids to do as much as they can. You know? So anyway, yeah, he's marching. He's pumped, man. You know,
I love it. There's things that you learn, in my opinion.
Didn't you play marching band?
Yeah. So I played trumpet.
That's cool. Did you play all the way through your senior year?
No. I played in middle school. But I think there's things about music as a person that has, you know, studied music, loves music. Dude, it helps. Like it's when you can learn something else. You're like, well, how do you apply music to baseball? I'm not saying it's like a direct line, but it's your brain, man. It's stretching your brain. You become a more
rounded person.
Yeah. You have other skills, and I'm telling you, like learning little patterns and beats and rhythm, and it's connected in your brain.
Oh yeah,
there are connections in your brain that you make, and so I'm all for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So and my biggest thing is I was like, do something else. And the reason I tell them that is, again, to get back to their point is, I want them to know I love him. I want him to know that he's bigger than something he's good at.
Yeah.
That the only time he gets praised when he's on the baseball field, or the only time he gets praised, because Caden played football last year. He was on both those championship teams. He was good at that too.
Amazing.
He's a great athlete.
Yeah.
But I was like, you're bigger than this, bro. Because one day that's why a lot of athletes, they stop playing sports and they struggle for identity because their whole life they've been that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 41, and there's a lot of athletes that if they have the chance to play till they're really old, they're late 30s, early 40s, they're stopping. And right now they're thinking, well, what am I? I mean, I can only imagine what that feels like. Probably the same as somebody who's done something for 40 years and they retire.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden feel like your world got ripped out from underneath you. And so I think it's important for us to let our kids know that they're more than whatever it is they're good at. And I think for adults, knowing that you're more than what you're good at. You're more than being a financial analyst. You're more than a pilot. You're more than a Navy SEAL. You're more than a professional athlete. You're more than a teacher.
Yeah.
Like, we have an identity. And I think the reason our kids struggle with it is because we don't know it.
Yeah.
We have an identity in God and who he's called us to be. And it has nothing to do with what we're good at. It has everything to do with what he's made you to be, the person that you are.
Yeah.
And being quiet with him and that being enough. It's just, we get so busy. And if we don't stay busy, we feel like staying busy brings peace.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It just keeps us from having to think about things that aren't peaceful.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful too that God's identity for you is not tied up in what you do.
Exactly.
It's just who you are. Yeah, like you said, it's who you are. And there's such a release when you come to that place of you're just like, man, I've been doing. Yeah, like you said, striving earlier.
Yeah.
I've just been doing my entire life. And when you get to the place where you just get to sit with God and he's just like, yeah, it's just, I love you for who you are.
That's all I need.
Dude, it changes everything.
Yeah. Well, I have a final thought.
Here's my final thought.
So last night, my wife is in Chicago. And we were on the phone, and so I had something going on in the background, and it was 90s music videos on my TV. I've never watched them, but I can tell you this. Within a moment, I was taken back, and I was in love with what I was seeing. Sublime was on there. What's that song? Please don't. Dido?
Dido, yeah.
Yeah, she was on there. Tony Braxton was on there. I mean, y'all know we're hitting hard right now. But what I realized quickly was that I was transported back to middle school, skiing at the Wisp in the winter. Like I was transported back there. So as I'm watching this, I was just interested in what I had no idea what these music videos were trying to tell me. I still
was the 90s.
It was the 90s. But this is one thing that was consistent in all three of them. There was ghosts in every video.
Yeah, that's what you said before we started the podcast.
There was ghosts.
Now I'm trying to do research on this right now.
I think the Toni Braxton video, her boyfriend or her lover, whoever got hit by, he was on a motorcycle and got killed, and then his ghost was there. Sublime, I'm not really sure. Dido, not really sure. But there were ghosts in all these videos. And I was thinking, what is our infatuation with ghosts in the 90s? And then it hit me. Can you please find out the date the Blair Witch Project started?
Okay.
There is an obsession with paranormal activity in the 90s, I realized.
That was 99. So
the Blair Witch Project?
Yeah.
So it was on the back end.
Yeah, and that's not about a ghost though.
But it's paranormal.
It's paranormal.
It's super,
for sure.
It's the weird
I wonder
stuff, right?
Coming out of coming out of the whole, which I'm sure was the 80s, like Michael Jackson's Thriller and all sorts of stuff. I mean, Michael Jackson has a song called Ghosts.
What year was that? Tell me it's the 90s.
I'm finding it right now.
Tell me it's the 90s.
I think 1997.
There it is.
But yeah, you're right. And I do think when I typed in just 90s music ghosts, a lot of things come up.
I'm saying, I'm not sure what our obsession is in the 90s with ghosts, but it's a real thing.
Well, like I said, maybe
every video had ghosts, bro.
There's a lot. There's a lot for some weird reason.
Just saying.
Okay.
Something to think about for all you out there, all you party people.
So
what's my point? My point is this.
I want to know what your point is.
Let it take you back.
Okay.
Let it take you back. I've had people, before I started our church, I had a pastor was talking to all these guys who were going to start churches. And he told this story about a guy who came to him right when he started his church. And this pastor at the time was probably in his mid-50s. And his church is very large, is very, it's in South Carolina. And he told us a story. He said, a guy came to me whenever I first started the church. And he asked me, can we sing this particular song? And he said, looking back, I would have done it differently. But I looked at him, he said, no, that's not the kind of music we're going to sing. This is the kind of music we're going to do. And he said, and the guy said, okay. And he didn't leave or nothing. He was okay with it. And they never sang the song.
Yeah.
And he said, it's not that I would have changed what we did, but I would have changed the way I approached it. He said, because I said no, because I was protecting the culture and what we wanted to sing. He said, but what the guy was really saying was, hey, in his time, there was a song that was probably a part of his transformation or whenever he found God, and it took him back.
Yeah.
And so this guy, when he came to ask the song, because the guy stayed and he served and he was a great part of the church, he said, what he was really saying is, this song takes me somewhere, and maybe it could take somebody else somewhere.
Yeah.
And he said, so I went from this defensive, this is who we are, don't touch our culture, I got to protect it, or don't change, we're not changing our culture, to this guy was saying, this is just something that helped me, maybe it could help somebody else. And he was talking about church planners. He said, look with compassion and empathy when people make suggestions, and not as in, this is the way it's going to be. He said, because it can still be the way you want culture to be, but it'll change the way you answer them.
That's good.
And change the way you approach it. And I know for me, there are certain songs I listen to, whether it's worship or old school stuff, that I'm like, wow, it just takes me back. Some of it, I don't want to go back.
yeah.
I'm like, nah, bro.
I know that feeling too.
Yeah, I'm like, cringy, right? But there's songs now, like when I was listening to those 90s songs, there was only one of the three that I ever listened to that I was like, oh yeah, this is actually a song I liked.
Yeah.
But all three of them took me back. I was standing at the bus stop in 7th grade, or I was skiing at the Wisp and going to Smiley's Pizza. Like I did that all the time growing up. Every winter in Oakland, Maryland, we'd get snow in the middle. I had my first class, it was so hot, we opened our window up on the 2nd floor. Me and this girl named Angie Senso. So Angie, if you're listening, love you. You're awesome. She's since been married, so her last name's probably changed. But Angie, we would sit in the back of the class and we'd open up the windows, and we sat by alphabetical order, so Shank and then Senso. And so we would open up the back windows, and these snowflakes would fly in.
Oh, wow.
And they would get our papers wet every day. And so my papers for that entire class they dry out and they're always crinkly, because I sat in the back of the class and the snow would blow in on us. And that was all the time in Oakland, Maryland. So usually it'd be 2 PM. It'd be like, oh, it's going to be good powder. And we'd meet out at the slopes all the time.
Yeah.
So that's where it took me. It took me back to either standing at the bus stop or in that class or skiing. Like, I loved it in the wintertime. That's why I never got into winter sports, like basketball or anything. 1, because I wasn't that good, but 2, because I skied.
You got to ski.
So I really did 3 sports. It was baseball or football. I skied as soon as football was over up until baseball started. And we skied all the way through the spring in Oakland. My point is, those songs took me there.
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of us, even with what we're talking about today with our kids, all of you listen to something this week that just takes you back, and go back there.
That's good.
Just go back there, and be grateful for where God's brought you to. But I love things that take me back. You know, before we came on, Buddy was mentioning that there's a new station here that does 90s R&B and hip hop, and I was like, yeah, dude, that's my station. Like, I'm realizing now that when parents like, oh, I like the 60s or 70s, and I was like, man, that's weird. Now the 90s are a throwback. Like the kids from today, I'll play it on the baseball. Like we'll be out and like Tupac will come on or something, and the kids are like, oh, this is awful.
No, don't let them tell you that. Yeah, that's really bad.
Yeah, Caden's like, don't play this, Dad. This stuff's awful.
They'll grow up someday.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, it's clean versions.
They'll mature.
It's
someday.
clean versions. But I'm like, come on, dog. Like,
it's better than mumble rap. Yeah.
But you know, I don't know. I kind of like mumble rap.
You like mumble rap?
Yeah.
I can't get into mumble rap.
The new stuff.
There's some good new rap for sure.
I love some
mumble
of it,
rap.
Oh
yeah, I can't do. I don't.
The
well,
kids
that
have helped me though, because I mean, I'm not one of these guys who like needs brought into like the new music realm. I love all the new music. So I'm one of these people. I'm not like, well, the new music stinks. I'm like, dude, I love it. I'm not a musician to where I have like a lack of appreciation or have an excuse or a reason.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, I just love it. I love all the new stuff. There's not a generation of music from the 90s on that I'm like, oh, I hate this. You know, I just like all of it. I like the new stuff as well. So
I always have an appreciation for rap, like lyrically, for the flow. Like that's a talent that I just don't have, so I have an appreciation for it. But I will say I love when that is combined with some musical genius as well from the music itself. Because sometimes like my wife will listen to this, like, just riding in the car or whatever. I'm like, this has been the same music for 3 minutes. Like the music hasn't changed.
Repeating.
The lyrics change. There's a new verse, new bars, but the music doesn't change. Where you have artists that, I mean, goodness, like NF, who musically is, I mean, it's a genius. Like it's a work of art. Like that's where I really get my appreciation from music of all kinds, is when you put that much effort into the music that's supporting your words. That's where I think you really make art.
And I don't disagree with that, but I'm a much more simpler kind of man.
Oh, I know.
I can listen. I'm saying I understand that, because I mean that would be like me watching like you're watching like a Texas Alabama versus like a D3 matchup on ESPNU that you don't care about. Not the D3 I don't care about. I'm saying like, but for me, you're going to look in the fine details. For me, I'm like, I want to know the players. I want to know, all the details. And I'm like, well, this matchup doesn't really get to me like this one, where some people watch anything, and you're saying no, like. I guess that's kind of a way to compare it. You know what I mean? Hey, it's our birthday. Palms Church turns 9 tomorrow. Woo! So happy birthday, Palms Church. 9 years, man. It's a great feat. God's been good to us. He sustained us. Let me pray over you. Lord, we love you. We thank you. I pray for each and every person listening. I pray they have a great week. Pray they know you care for them. That God, you are so much and they are so much more than what they're great at. We love you. We thank you. And everybody said, amen. Hey, this weekend we start Exodus at Palms Church, 9:30, online, in person. I'll be there. I can't wait. God's stirring my heart. Can't wait to speak what he's putting in it. We'll see y'all then. Love y'all.